Okay, welcome. My name is Michael Brown. This is the BG5 Consultant Certification Open House. So this is for people who are interested in joining me or any certification class in the BG5 Institute. So I'll be starting the class in 2 weeks, in September 25th. But I'll give you, even if you're not interested in the BG5 Consultant Certification class, that's okay. We'll talk about design. We'll talk about BG5, and I'll also give you a sense of how to look at a chart through the perspective of a BG5 person, meaning that you're looking, instead of just helping someone understand themselves, you're trying to help them understand how they're designed to work, how they're designed to make money, how they're designed to market themselves, how they're designed to operate, whether in, as a solopreneur, in a partnership, in a small team or large team. All of that is located in the chart. So we're going to talk about that today. So we have present in class, we have a builder or a generator and a projector. Both are emotionally defined. But if you're downloading this class, that's great. I welcome you. So this is an interesting quote from a book called The Last Investment. It's from two authors, Brian Franklin and Michael Ellsberg. So their premise is, did you know that there's this myth out there that if you save for decades and invest in 401ks, IRAs, and a home, these investments will grow steadily, allowing 20 to 30 years of secure, peaceful retirement. So their premise is, though this might have been true at some point in the last century, it's not true any longer. If you want to get ahead and enjoy a life of prosperity, you must invest in the last safe investment, which is yourself and your own skills, value to others, relationships, and overall happiness. So part of this premise is, from a human design BG5 perspective, is that the world's changing. So Ra Uru Hu, the founder of human design, when he began to get the knowledge, he began to understand not only people from an individual perspective, but he began to see the larger picture. And what that essentially means is, as individuals, we go through these cycles. We have yearly cycles that begin about 3 months before our birthday. And so we have these themes that were designed to live out over the course of, say, a year. So that's this, we call it the solar cycle. We also, as a human beings, we have these larger long-term cycles, which are essentially 30-year cycles. So from birth to about age 30, we call that the Saturnian cycle. So we shift from one place to another. So there's different marking points in design. The primary ones are age 30, age 40, age 50, and then at around 60, we go through another shift. So those are marking points in people's lives. So just personally, I've gone through some huge changes at those 30 and 50-year markers. But also, coming back to what I was talking about, is Ra also was able to discern that globally, we have these 400-year cycles. So we are leaving one age and beginning another. So if you're new to design, this may be new to you. And if you've been in here for a while, it may be something you've been thinking about or heard about. Let me just give you a quick snapshot on why it applies to what we're talking about here. 400 years seems like a huge amount of time, but Ra was able to understand that each of those 400-year cycles has its own map. For the past 400 years, beginning in around, I think, 1601, give or take a couple of years around that time, this new phase called the cycle of planning. The cycle of planning. So there's 4 gates in design, or BG5. So we have the 16 and the 9. So we have this skills and focus. And we also have this channel, which is the 3740, which is the channel of community or the strength of community. So we had this incredibly deep focus on building our skills and building essentially these tribal institutions. That is all going away. So during the last 400 years, we had this incredible buildup of society. So all of the major institutions came about essentially in the last 400 years. So all the progress we've made, all the skills we developed, all the technology that has exploded happened in these past 400 years. So think about medicine, think about education, think about government, think about these, different countries that, came about all in this past, 4 centuries. Now, what's happening now at this point, so we're moving from this focus on skills, building up tribal institutions, and we're moving into an era that's so deeply focused on the individual. So what that means is we're moving into this new phase, which again has 4 gates or traits in BG5 language, which is the 34-20, the 55, and the 59. So it's about this deep interpersonal relationship with one another, but it's also about self-empowerment. So it's the channel of the strength of the 34-20. So from the sacral to the throat, or the energy resource to the communication function, self-empowerment is the most deeply individual aspect of design. So there's one particular channel sits in this circuit called integration. Integration is about self-empowerment, survival. How can I support myself? How can I find my way in the world? So we have, on one hand, we have this crumbling of these tribal structures, and we have this rise of the individual. Now, these institutions won't just suddenly just fall down. By the way, the changeover point is in February 2027. January, February, there's a particular date. I don't know it off the top of my head. So it's this idea, this changeover. Now, again, this changeover has started, it began in the early 1960s. And it's sort of really hitting steam in the next couple of years, and then it's moving into this new cycle. Now, these cycles take about 70 or 80 years to begin to seed in, begin to sort of integrate in. But what's going to happen is we're going to see these crumbling structures happening on one hand, and we're already seeing it. And we're going to see this movement for self-empowerment on the other side. So you can probably see those in your life wherever you are. You can see this has already begun. So that's why something like human design BG5 is so important, because not only do you begin to know yourself, you begin to understand, how can I operate in the world in a way that feels really unique and suited for me. Another book is, we have a quote here it's called Spiral Dynamics, Mastering Values, Leadership, and Change. It's from 2 authors, Don Edward Beck and Christopher Cohen. So the quote is, "We are caught in a storm of conflicting values, ethnic eruptions, crises that happen every day, and ecological uncertainties cloud the future. It's like clashing weather fronts. Political, technological, economic, and social forces are spawning wind shears and tornadoes all over the global marketplace." So essentially what this quote means is, it's not only things are changing, but they're changing really dramatically, really incredibly fast. Most executives, like airplane pilots, using yesterday's technology, have been caught by surprise in the downdrafts. Neither our business gurus nor our social forecasters had prepared us for this turbulence. Nothing has arrived to set up our altimeter or true compasses, much less equip us with the means for regaining control. So match with this, it's not so much a prophecy, it's just these cycles are happening. And we're in the midst of an incredibly dramatic change. So these two authors, without really understanding about, any global cycles or anything like that, they're seeing the symptoms and they're sort of naming them. We now have a way to understand that. And again, with our studies with BG5 and human design, it's not only about understanding yourself, which is really important. BG5 is really focused on how do I survive and thrive in the material worlds. So, like I've been talking about, the times are changing, whether we like it or not. This is just upon us. So we either learn to adapt and thrive or get lost in the chaos and confusion. So imagine this scenario. What if you had a way to your true compass? You were given a personalized map that showed you how you were uniquely designed to operate in the world of business, work, career, and making money. What if you learned how to read the nuances of that map? What if you were able to sit down with someone, have their human design BG5 chart in front of you, and sit down and have this conversation with a friend, with a client, and say, hey, here's how you are meant to operate in the world. And if you're like me, who is someone who's sat down with literally hundreds of people, you'll have the experience where someone across from you will say, how do you know that about me? This is so uncanny. It's so accurate to who I am. This is how I experience life. I've had this experience over and over and over. The first time, it really, really blew me away. So quick story. When so in addition to my being a teacher in the BG5 Institute, I also came up through the IHDS. So I'm a trained human design analyst. I'm a trained, living your design guide. But I remember when I first began to do readings, sessions for clients, and I had this gentleman from Australia. And we get on it wasn't even a Zoom. I don't remember what platform we used. This is a while ago. And I was basically doing a human design reading for him. And he said to me halfway through, he was a little freaked out. He said, how do you know this about me, Mike? I can't understand it. And I said, I'm just looking at your chart and I'm just reading your design. That was a really pivotal moment for me in the sense that I really began to trust how accurate this information is. So how do you know if this is right for you, if this is correct? You would like to make a difference in the world, either for yourself or for others during these changing times. You're struggling to make money, you're at a crossroads in your career, you want to make a deeper impact. One of the ways that you can do that is in your training to become a BG5 coach and consultant. So part of what we're going to talk about today is how does this work and what does the BG5 path look like? So what we'll cover is, like I've been talking about, how the times are changing, how to be prepared, beginning to understand, is this the right investment for me? Can I see myself doing this? Understanding that there are ways that we are designed to move through the world in, business sense, career sense, and being able to understand how that works for you makes it just that much smoother. So imagine yourself in a boat and you're going down a river and you're in one of those boats. It's kind of relaxed, it's nice and wide, but it's just meant to float. And suddenly if you hit these rapids and you're in this boat, like, oh, this boat is not geared towards these particular ways of, moving down a river. As opposed to if you have this like sleek kayak and you hit these rapids, and you're able to sort of navigate really well. My little analogy is if you understand how you operate, so that's the metaphor of the boat, you can gear yourself and point yourself in a direction. Am I really suited to be a solopreneur, have my own practice, become a healer, become a coach, become this? Or am I designed to really work with another person? Or am I designed to fit on a team, whether it's a small team or a large team? So another quick story is when you see my design, and I'll show you why, I am someone who's designed to operate either individually or in partnership. I can do that, and I can also work in teams as long as I have a lot of autonomy. So earlier in my career, I was someone who was acting as a consultant. I had a friend who owned a company, and so I would go in to work with his company, and so I became part of a team. And what I noticed is when I was working within the fields of what we call in BG5 is the penta. So penta is a group of 3 to 5 people. A penta has its own energy dynamic, its own fields. And if you're someone who's designed to be in a penta, then it feels very naturally for you. I am someone who's not designed to be working in a penta or a small team on a continuous basis. So here's what I would notice. When I was sitting with the team, I was really on board. Yes, 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 yes. That sounds great. Let's do it. Yeah, I'll take on these jobs. I'll take on this responsibility. And as soon as I left the office, literally within 5 minutes, I would find myself saying, I don't want to do any of that. So what was happening is I was being pulled into the energy dynamic of the team, felt like I was part of this. But as soon as I stepped out, operating sort of from a place of my own autonomy, I realized this is how I'm meant to operate. Now that I didn't fully understand human design BG5 at that point, and so I had some costly mistakes there. But once I began to understand, I realized, I number one, I need a lot of autonomy. Number two, I can't work in dedicated teams. It doesn't mean, when I'm here under the BG5 Institute, I'm part of a team, but really I'm sort of my own entity. I have my own classes, I have a business outside. All of that is geared towards how I'm designed to operate. So this makes a big difference. When you begin to study in the Institute, you'll find, how am I designed to operate in the material world? When you begin to know that, it feels incredibly relaxing. Something inside of you begins to, you settle. That's the goal. And if you wanted to do this professionally, you're gonna have the ability to do that with your clients. So a little about me. So if you're watching this visually, my chart is on the right. So in BG5 terminology, I am an express builder. I have a 2-4 public role. And if you're from the human design land, I'm a 2-4 manifesting generator. My one channel, my one strength is the 34-20. So goes from the sacral directly to the throat. So this pure manifesting, ready to build. But there's a lot of caveats to that. Sometimes when we hear the term express builder or manifesting generator, we can get the wrong idea, which means like these people can just do anything and everything all the time. It's not how it works, really. So I started studying in 2005. And I really should say human design found me. So my quick story is that I was at this workshop with this guy. It was a really dynamic workshop. I really liked the material. And it was on personal development. And at the very end of this 2-day workshop, he said, oh, by the way, I do this thing called human design. Let me just pull up a chart for you. And so I sat down, he just typed my birth data into the chat, and all of a sudden, this chart pops up, something lights up inside of me. Within 2 weeks of seeing my chart, you can see here on the screen, I had my first reading, human design reading, and I enrolled in my first course. So something inside of me had this incredible electric response to it. So I've been studying for almost 20 years. During that time, I've taught different classes. I have become not only a BG5 teacher, I was also teaching the IHDS for a period of time. And I have to say, teaching for me is a calling. It's just something that it's really amazing for me to do. So if you're interested in studying BG5 and you're interested in like finding a teacher, let me give you a snapshot of how I teach so you can get a sense of, am I the right person for you or not? So I always believe that we need a balance of theory and application, which essentially means here's the knowledge, here's how to apply it. Here's the knowledge, here's how to apply it. So I continually do this with my students. So we'll study a module, like we can talk about the different centers, the different functions. We can talk about the definition. We can talk about decision-making styles, types, every one of those pieces, that's the theory. And then we talk really deeply about, okay, this is how to apply it, not only to yourself, but how to think about it for your clients. My classrooms tend to be really somewhat casual in the sense that I have this ability to create community. So my classes are really tend to be somewhat dynamic. We have a lot of conversations. And the reason I can do that is I've begun to adopt what's called the flipped classroom model, which means oftentimes I'll pre-record a lot of the important theoretical knowledge. So beforehand, you can download some videos, you watch it on your own time. And then in class, we spend a lot of time, talking about the homework. We talk about how do we apply this in real life? So that's a continually ongoing process. It gets, more smoother. So if that interests you, that's how I sort of work with classrooms. A lot of the students I work with have a real positive response to that. And so maybe it will work for you. Here's what I want to do in the next little bit of time. There's this idea of, I want to help you understand how we look at a chart. So I have two charts that I'm going to share with you, but we're looking at it through a very particular lens. And that lens is, how am I designed to operate in a way that feels very authentic and natural for me in the world, but not only just the world in general, but it's like, how do I do it in my career? How do I do it in my business? How do I set up a practice that's uniquely suited for me? Or should I be thinking about working in a company? So there's this question, who am I? What am I designed to do? What makes me special? What makes me unique? What makes me happy? Where do I find enjoyment? How do I get out of my struggling? How can I be more authentic? This idea of authentic or true self is essentially how we're best meant to express ourselves, our gifts in the world. And of course, how do I make the correct choices and make the right decisions? So we have a chart up here. This happens to be, if you're watching it, you can see when you look at the chart, this is something I also like to do with students, is we take out all the information. This is the type, this is the decision-making style. But I'd like to have students look at the chart and begin to orient without the information. So you train your eyes to see all the pertinent details in the chart when you look at it. So here's how I'm looking at it, and this is how I teach my students to do it. So here's the first perspective, is how much white, how much openness is in the design versus how much defined. One of the things to understand that we talk about really early on is this phrase or question, what am I broadcasting? What am I putting out into the world? So really simply, anytime you see colored centers or functions, excuse me, in a chart, that's like a light bulb that's shining, and it shines all the time. So why is that important to know in your career? Because if you flip the equation, excuse me, if you flip the equation, it's the question becomes, how are other people experiencing me? So if when you look at this chart, this happens to be an emotional advisor or an emotional projector, two particular strengths. One is the, excuse me, the strength of what we call provoking. This is a wave, an emotional wave of passion, but it's an emotional wave that's on all the time. So this particular wave is sort of not huge up and downs, but more these up and down spikes. It's also deep, deep, deep melancholy. So this person's energy is being broadcast out. So it's not just who she is, it's also her emotional wave. So when she begins to understand this, she understands that when she's really low in her emotional wave, everyone else around her is going to experience that. Isn't that amazing information to know? What's probably happened to this person over and over and over and over in her life is when her wave is down, people can feel like, oh, is everything okay? Do you need help? Did I do something wrong? This has been happening to this person all her life. When in reality, there's nothing wrong at all. But once she understands this dynamic, this person begins to understand this dynamic, and then she shares it with the people around her. That's incredibly helpful. It's also helpful for her to understand it if she moves into a leadership position, that she can tell her team, hey, there's this dynamic that you should be aware of. If you feel sort of, my energy and it feels a little bit low, I'm not mad at you. I'm not upset about with you. None of that is playing out. But this is also her decision-making style. So in business, we tend to prize, we tend to award, we tend to focus on people who make really fast decisions. But for her, it's the complete opposite. It's the complete opposite. She needs to really feel into a decision, move through that wave until clarity arises. If you've been studying human design or BG5 for a while, that sounds incredibly obvious to you. But can you imagine sitting across from a manager who has been, going through her career and told she takes too much time, she moves too slow, people get a little tweaked out of, working with her, all of that stuff she's experienced in one way or another. Imagine the relief that your client would feel to say, it's okay to take your time to make a decision. So this is her primary way of making a decision. We can also look at a chart. So she has this one particular channel, this one particular strength called inspiration. It's the creative role model. It's the 1/8, from the G to the throat, or the identity to the communication function. This person is a leader, but she leads in a very particular way, which is by example. Here, this is the way I do it. I'm a 1/3. I have a lot of trial and error. I've made mistakes. She's a wonderful creative role model, and she does things and she sees things in a really unique way. So I'm talking about one particular chart here, but what I really want you to understand is the bigger picture. Each chart tells a story. Each chart tells a story. This story is how she operates, how she makes decisions. If we go a little bit deeper, her 1/8, her creative role model, this ability to inspire people through her own example, through her own creativity. She's also designed to, because she's an advisor, she's designed to help people in very particular ways. One of those ways is to help other people get in touch with their creativity, to help them, express themselves more authentically. All of this is in her design. All of this she's naturally capable of. She's also designed to fit and play a creative role in the team. This is very, very specific information. With your studies, and we're not talking, I am only looking at the surface of the charts. I'm not studying any deep esoteric parts of design. What I'm essentially doing is taking these foundational bits of information and I'm just putting them together and I'm just crafting a story. That's what I want you to be able to do, is take these foundational aspects, look at a chart, begin to assimilate it in your own way, and then put it together in a coherent story that the client says, whoa, that's so amazing. How do you know that about me? That's the goal. Here's another chart, totally different. Excuse me. This is a 5-2 classic builder, or in human design terms, we talk about, just a classic generator. 3 channels here. So we have 2 parts split off one another. So this is a split definition or a collaborative. In BG5 terminology, we say collaborative assimilator. This person is designed to collaborate with others. Now, I'm going to get out my drawing tool. So we're going to begin to elaborate. And this information I'm going to give you right now essentially is all contained in the certification class. So when we look at a design in BG5, we look at it through different lenses. So we have the design itself, we have the types, we have the decision-making style. That's all sort of built into it. But we also go a little bit further and we talk about where someone is designed to fit in work-wise. What environments do they work best in? So we have particular zones. This is my terminology. We have these zones in a chart that says if you have definition in this part of the chart, you're designed to work in a small team. And if you don't, you're not so much designed to work on a small team. So when you see my little drawings here, you'll notice that I was not designed to work in any teams. When I say that phrase, it means dedicated working day in and day out in a team. That's not how I'm designed to work. On contrast, this chart here, totally designed to do that. So we call this the pentazone. So it's the coming down from the throat, down to through the G to the sacral center. Design terminology, BG5, it's the communication function, identity function, energy resource function. If you have definition, a defined channel or defined strength in this zone, the 6 channels, 731, 18, 1333, that's up top. Down below is 515, 214, 2946. Those 6 channels or strengths, if you have them, you're designed to work in a small team. So you're what's called a penta person. You can really thrive in a small team. Good for you. You're one of those people that are like, great. That feels very natural for you. Now, what's interesting to see is we can actually map what do you contribute to the team. So this particular person is, any team would love to have this person on their team because we have the 214, which is this power, this capacity to move the team in a very specific direction. The 46 is coordination. The 7 is planning. The 1 is about sales. The 33 is about oversight. All of those things he contributes to the team. He makes the team more functional just by being there. He's like the engine. The 214 is like the engine that drives the team forward. Holy tamale. Just you would pay money to have this person on your team. Now, I'm talking about a chart that, may be totally new to you. You don't fully understand what I'm talking about. That's okay. That's what we're going to learn. But what I want you to see is from two perspectives. One, if you were sitting in my seats, you would see how amazing this person is, but in a very particular way. The other perspective I want you to have is imagine that you were the client and someone was telling you, you're really designed to work in this way. This is where you're going to thrive. We can tell him where he's going to have his challenges, what's going to be most difficult, all of that. So this person happens to be multidimensional. So let me explain what that means really fast. There's another zone that if you have one of these 6 strengths channels, then you're also designed to work in a larger organization. Let me show you what those are. It's not as compact as the pentazone. So from the root to the sacral, or drive stamina, to the energy resource, the 63, the 360. This is the strength of innovation. We have the whole defense circuit, the 50 to the 27, the 59 to the 6. So the wings, we have the custodianship, and we have intimacy, or in BG5 terminology, it's about, the group. 214 is the 4th channel. The 2551 is competition, and the 2145 is management. So it's also interesting to note that when we switch from the personal individual chart, we start looking at it from a business perspective, the values change. How it operates changes. So this person has one of those, we call them O616 or WA channels or strengths. So this person is really designed to facilitate, enable, empower more interaction. That's what his particular strength is, as well as direction. So this person can operate on 2 levels. He can operate really well in a team. He can really operate on a larger team. And oh, by the way, he can really thrive in a partnership too. Any one of those places gives him this feeling like I'm in the right place. Now, of course, as a generator, as a builder, he's going to go through this whole inner response. Do you want to work in this way? Do you want to work in this way? Do you want to work in this way? And most likely he's changed and tried all different ones over the course of his career. But just knowing that gives him a sense, this is good for me, this isn't. So basically, for this particular person, it's not individual. Again, I'm talking very specific about a chart, but I'm helping you understand you can look at any chart and take out the same specific keynotes, these ways of looking, and you can share it in a way that just sounds like a simple story. All right, we're 45 minutes in. We got to talk about the class a little bit, so we're going to move through here. We talk about in human design and BG5 as a binary. So we have these different parts. We have definition, what's defined and what's open. We have these kind of opposite places. We have this detail, and then the bigger picture. The idea is in design, we are a blend, a synthesis of the whole. So we're the quantum. When we look at a chart, the most prominent place, the thing you see is Here's the personality, the conscious. And on the other side, we see the design, the unconscious. What makes design so unique is that we get to understand the blending of the two. Understanding the unconscious is, in my mind, a superpower. If you go through these studies, and if you've already been studying human design, you've already gone through the foundation classes, you know how powerful the transformation that happens within you is. You can't study human design or BG5 and not be changed. It's impossible, because you're learning to see yourself in a way that you've never seen yourself before. So you embody the change that your clients will then look to you and say, yes, this person feels an alignment. They know what they're talking about. That's what we're shooting for too. So you're not only studying the theory, you're going through your own journey as well. Here's what we call the 16 success codes. Say that 10 times fast. So we have career type, personal interaction style, decision-making, key indicators, that's signature, simulation, that's definition, environmental style, business skills, team attributes, all of these things we study in the certification. 3 semesters, by the way, and you will learn all of these in depth. The idea is you want to be able to share these with a client, preferably over time. Instead of giving them all this information at one time, we share it. So we can do these career design sessions. We can also design coaching packages that help people work through this information step by step by step. Each semester goes into different parts. So in first semester, we go back into all of the foundational pieces, but we look at it from the perspective of, how do I share this with a client in a really coherent, impactful way? In semester 2, we talk about going deeper with the knowledge, but we also talk about partnership. We can look at 2 people and look at their design. So BG5 is about learning to read your personalized map. If you're into design, you already know all this piece. But again, you've heard me talk about it and give examples. We're looking at it through a really unique lens, which is, how do I thrive? How do I operate in my career? So Ra had this intent when he began to teach BG5, which was, everyone has to survive with the level of consciousness that they have. He really felt like he spent a lot of time helping people achieve their personal inner potential, but he also wanted to help them do it on the material plane. He theorized and he saw that people who are really entrenched in the business world, they don't have the time or the knowledge or the drive to wake up. So his idea was, how can I transform them, not from a personal perspective, but on the material plane? So his idea was, let's put people in the places that they most need to be, whether it's in a partnership, as a penta, an OC16, a large group, or should we be, putting them or guiding them towards more having a solopreneur practice? BG5 is essentially human design for business. That's the easiest tagline we can say. BG5 is human design for business. We look at it, we study it, we apply it through a very specific lens. We talk about the 2 sides, which I just mentioned, which is, we as students want to go through this. We want to understand how we're designed to operate. What begins to happen when you do that is your frequency begins to change. You become more aligned, you become more who you are. In that way, when we meet our clients, again, they feel the resonance of this system working through us. That's what we're shooting for. We can work with, these are the different ways we can work. We can work with partnership, group dynamics, individual. We can assess, we can come in and look at teams and see where they're designed to sort of move their business, what's wrong with it, what skills are they missing. All of that shows up in our studies in our career. Let me take the last little bit here to talk about the framework, how this operates. So if you want to do the certification class, two criteria. One is you've done both foundation classes in the BG5 Institute or somewhere with a certified BG5 teacher. And then, or if you're in the human design track, you'll have to have studied the first 3 levels of the professional training development. Once you get your certification, then you can study more advanced classes. So in the human design track, you have to have done living in design, rave ABCs, and rave cartography. Those give you the same foundation as we have in the BG5 Institute, which is foundations 1 and 2. Either one of those enables you, certifies you to jump into the certification class. And this, again, this semester, the focus is learning how to deliver a BG5 career design overview session. Once you've completed that, then you can start offering those to clients and get paid for it. So you can start recouping your initial investments. This is the class outline, just to give you a sense of what it looks like. So even though you've studied these particular different modules, we're going to go deeper into and look at it from a perspective of how do I deliver this to a client. So we have the introduction, we have the assimilation, which is definition, small and large group environments. So we are enabled to say, just like I did in our examples, this is where you're designed to work. We have builders, advisors, initiators, evaluators, how to do those sessions. And then we talk about what we call pentaskills. So we have that pentazone. Each one of those gates and strengths in that zone has a particular skill that you contribute to a team. Once you go through that, you are certified to do these overviews, which you can start, sharing with clients. What else here as we begin to wrap up? The later classes are also designed to, you complete the studies in semester 2, you learn how to deliver both a career design analysis and a partnership analysis. When you complete those studies, again, you can start, offering them to clients and get paid for them. The final semester is about Alpha 1 leadership analysis and small business analysis, which essentially is, how do I work with a leader in either a small business or even a larger corporation who has people reporting to them? And you can begin to help them understand, how do I lead better? But how do I lead in a way that's very specific to the people reporting to you? And the last one is the small business. You look at a business holistically and understand what are their particular strengths as a business and where are they lacking and how do they fix it. As you go through this and gain the ability to look at charts in the way that I was demonstrating, it feels incredibly empowering to be able to do this. You don't have to study for long periods of time. It's just practice. That self-assurance that when you're sitting with a client and you're just seeing this incredible recognition in their eyes, it's one of the most gratifying things you can have as a human design BG5 professional. So our goal, my goal especially, is to help you be able to do that. These are some of the prices that you can charge for the different sessions that we have. This is also obviously dependent on your particular clientele, where you live in the world, the state of the world, all of that. But these are prices that, some of our people have been charging, just to give you a sense. You also have access to different reports. So within the BG5 Institute, we have these written reports that you can use to share with your clients that can be an add-on to the sessions that you have. So as you begin to think about this, is this a good investment for me? How much of a risk is it for you? Is the potential return worth the risk? So these are the questions you can begin to ask yourself. The students I have are going through this incredible transformation. As a teacher, it's just been so powerful for me to watch. So if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out and I'll give you my email in a second. The classes start, and it goes for 11 weeks, 10 weeks. We do 5 weeks, we have a break, and then we do 5 weeks, and that completes the course. We start on September 25th at 1600 UTC, which in New York time is 12 noon. On the West Coast of the United States, that's 9 a.m. And in England, it's around 4 or 5 p.m., depending on daylight savings. So here in the US, it's in the morning time, and in Europe, it's late afternoon, early evening. Here's the package. Normally, the class is $1,600, but it drops down to $1,400 in the early bird price. If you want to pay as a complete package, all 3 semesters, all 3 with everything is $4,200. And these are just some testimonials that my previous students were given. All right. Any questions at all? So if you need to reach me, you can reach me within the Institute, Michael at BG5Institute.com. That's my professional email. If you want to reach me on my personal email, you can do that too. Turning Leaf Wellness at mac.com. Okay, thank you, everyone. Thank you for listening, downloading. Really appreciate it. And thank you.
Thank you.